Hey family! Welcome back to the channel where we dive into powerful stories that inspire, empower, and leave you saying, "Wow, I didn't know that." Today, we're taking a journey way back in time to meet a woman who didn't just lead, she conquered. A woman who heard from God, led a nation, and defeated an army without ever lifting a sword. Her name? Deborah. This isn't just a Bible story, this is the original girl boss saga. Let's go! Let's rewind to a time when the Israelites were living in fear. They had no king, no army strong enough to defend themselves, and the land was full of enemies. One in particular, a brutal commander named Sisera, was terrorizing them with 900 iron chariots. Now that's like saying someone's got tanks while you're holding sticks and stones. The Israelites had turned away from God, and like a broken compass, their nation had lost its direction. Chaos ruled. People were scared to walk on highways. Villages were empty. Farmers abandoned their fields. The land was crying for a leader. And that's when she appears. So who was Deborah? Picture this. A woman living in ancient Israel, a time when women were expected to stay silent, hidden in the background. But Deborah? She didn't get the memo. She was a judge. And not just any judge, she was the only female judge mentioned in the Bible. Imagine her as a mix between a Supreme Court judge and a spiritual leader, someone people came to for wisdom, advice, and justice. But that's not all. She was also a prophetess, someone who heard directly from God and gave divine guidance to the people. Talk about wearing many hats. Now I know what you're thinking. How did a woman rise to such power in a male-dominated world? Well, Deborah didn't push her way to the top. She simply showed up, spoke truth, and walked in her calling. People couldn't help but listen. Now, let's set the scene. Israel was in trouble, big trouble. For 20 years, they were oppressed by a cruel king named Jabin. He had a mighty army led by his general, Sisera, and a fleet of 900 iron chariots. That was the ancient version of tanks. The Israelites were terrified. They were living in fear, hiding out, unable to fight back. Roads were empty, villages were abandoned. It was like living under the constant threat of war with no hope in sight. And here's the thing, nobody was brave enough to rise up. Nobody, except Deborah. One day, Deborah received a message from God. It was time to fight back. She called for a man named Barak, a skilled warrior. She says, God says, take 10,000 men and go fight Sisera. God will give you the victory. Now Barak, he was a strong man. But his reply? He said, I'll go, but only if you go with me. Now pause right there. Let's break that down. This trained military commander is telling a woman, I'll only go if you come too. That tells you just how much respect Deborah had. She wasn't just a figurehead, her presence meant something. So Deborah agrees, but with one condition. She says, fine, I'll go. But just so you know, the victory won't be credited to you. The honor will go to a woman. Boom. MIC drop. Barak gathers his 10,000 men and positions them on Mount Tabor. Sisera hears about it and brings his whole army, with those 900 chariots of iron. Now here's where it gets interesting. God had a plan that didn't rely on military strength. He used something simple, rain. The battlefield was near a river. And when God sent heavy rain, that mighty army of chariots got stuck in the mud. The same weapons that gave them power became their downfall. That's deep, right? It's like showing up to a drag race in a Ferrari and realizing the road just turned into quicksand. Sometimes, the very thing the enemy is counting on is what God will use against them. Barak and his men charge down the mountain and defeat Sisera's army completely. But what about Sisera himself? Sisera escapes on foot and runs to a nearby tent. There, he meets a woman named Jael. Now Jael was not part of Israel's army, she was just a woman living nearby. Sisera thinks he's safe. Jael invites him in, gives him milk, and covers him with a blanket. Sounds cozy, right? Well, plot twist. When Sisera falls asleep, Jael takes a tent peg and a hammer, and I'm warning you, this part is intense, she drives the peg through his temple. Just like Deborah prophesied, the honor of defeating Sisera went to a woman. So what can we learn from Deborah? 1. Leadership isn't about position, it's about purpose. Deborah didn't chase titles. She simply obeyed, and that made her a leader. 2. You don't have to fight with swords to win battles. Her greatest weapons were faith, wisdom, and obedience. 3. God uses the unexpected. A woman led the army. Another woman finished the enemy. In a time when women were seen as weak, they were the ones who changed history. 4. Courage isn't about being fearless, it's about showing up even when you're scared. Barak needed Deborah because she showed up. That's powerful. And 5. Never underestimate your voice. Deborah used her voice to judge, to lead, and to praise. After the battle, she even wrote a whole song to celebrate the victory. Now, let's bring this home. Deborah's story isn't just ancient history. Today's world still needs Deborahs. Women and men who speak truth, lead with wisdom, and fight for what's right, not with weapons, but with courage and conviction. Maybe your battlefield isn't an army, maybe it's your workplace, your family, your community, or even your own mind. Maybe your Sisera is doubt, fear, or people telling you you're not enough. But like Deborah, you don't need to raise a sword to win. You just need to rise, speak, and move in your purpose. So, what's your takeaway from Deborah's story? Let us know in the comments below. Do you see yourself as a Deborah? Or maybe a Jael? And hey, if this inspired you even just a little bit, don't forget to like and subscribe to Niger Trends TV for more powerful stories that uplift and empower. And don't forget to also share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And always remember, when faith leads the way, even mountains move. Until next time, walk boldly, lead wisely, and never forget, you are stronger than you think.